I am Sinistar. Beware, I live. Run, run, run. Beware, coward. Run, coward. I hunger.
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
You have the right to remain stupid. Everything you do not know can and will be used against you, most likely for profit.
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
We would like to apologize for the way in which politicians are represented in this program. It was never our intention to imply that politicians are weak-kneed political time servers who are concerned more with their personal vendettas and private power struggles than the problems of government. Nor to suggest at any point that they sacrifice their credibility by denying free debate on vital matters, in the mistaken impression that party unity comes before the well-being of the people they supposedly represent. Nor to imply at any stage that they are squabbling little toadies without an ounce of concern for the vital social problems of today. Nor indeed do we intend that viewers should consider them as crabby, ulcerous little self-seeking vermin with furry legs and an excessive addiction to alcohol and certain explicit sexual practices which some people might find offensive. We are sorry if this impression has come across.
You know who likes special entertainment like that? My mom!
If you'd like to participate in the show, you can leave us voicemail at 815-200-4912. You can tweet us at TheSideProject2. You can even email us at TheSideProject2@gmail.com, or you can use the hashtag TSPLive. Welcome once again, friends, neighbors, Romans, countrymen, weirdos off the street, and the bums living on Lower Wacker Drive. This is, once again, from sunny, corny Morris, Illinois, Jim Goebel.
From Indianapolis, this is Lex Zorn.
Who's next? Me?
Car.
All right, why not? From Lockport, Illinois, hi there, Eric Ferguson.
And today is a very special day. We got a couple of guests. We've had one on before, and the other one is new to the show. Welcome back again after a 2-week absence, Mike Bowler.
Hello, everyone.
And his partner in crime from the Bitchspot Report, Cephus.
Howdy, howdy.
So, okay. First of all, I want to say a few things about the stuff that happened with me yesterday. As people know from the last couple of shows, the bastards at the Illinois Republican Party challenged all of the signatures at the well, not all of them, but over half, which would kick us off the ballot, by the way, that the Libertarian Party collected, and we've been down there since Monday, I believe, and then they were hoping to finish up today to defend the signatures, but it looks like they're going to go till Wednesday of next week. And so yeah, I mean, we've been trying to get people down there to help us out, to help defend the signatures. Surprise, surprise, we had actually a few people from the Democrats come down to help us out. So yeah. It was interesting. And
that could be because there has been a long-standing theory that the Libertarians take votes away from the Republicans more than the Democrats by about a 2-1 margin.
It has nothing to do with that. It's tactical, because I heard that some of the Republicans came down to help the Democrat challenge against the Green Party, and the Green Party lost by like 60 signatures or something like that. It was really petty. But so we were down in Springfield and helping to defend our signatures and all that. And it's funny, the Illinois Board of Elections, they're in a shopping plaza on the south side of Springfield occupying what was once obviously a grocery store. So that was kind of hilarious. And I mean, we get in there, and I've been hearing stories about things that have been going on all week down there. And apparently 3 of the higher-ups in the state Republican Party went down there and, well, I need to say how it's set up first. They got like 10, 12 stations. One is the employee of the state, which is sitting at the computer, which is typing all the information and, you know, trying to run the search. And then on the left of him is the accuser, in this case the Republicans, and then on the right are the good guys. And I'm sorry, libertarians. I always do that. Okay, so what happens is that earlier in the week, some of the lieutenants of the state Republican Party were sitting down in the accuser's seat, and they were going like bulldogs. They were challenging everything, whether it was not challengeable or not. They were giving the people, the libertarians who were defending the signatures hard time, and they were pissing off the judges. And Wednesday they said, you know what, screw you guys. You can't sit down because you're more trouble than you're worth. So that was a good thing. It turns out also that at some points, it didn't happen to me, but I guess during the week the Republican operatives would be walking around the room, and if they looked over and saw that they were losing a lot of challenges, they would switch out the accuser with someone else. So apparently it was rare to have an accuser all day. And they were busing in paid employees of the party and people that were interns on college campuses, and you know, it was, and of course, you know, I had all of us in the Libertarian Party, you know, we got real jobs. We're not political insiders or whatever. We're just, as they say, plain folk.
Yeah.
And so we had to take vacation days, sick days, or whatever to get down there. In fact, last weekend I had to work 14 hours of overtime, and I really wanted to do this, but I was afraid by taking a vacation day it would negate all of my overtime. But fortunately, it didn't, because of the way our, you know, pay weeks are set up. But yeah, but I mean, you know, we're not getting paid for the most part. I mean, yeah, if you take a vacation day, most companies will do it, but you know, we're there because we believe in our cause. The others are just there when they're paid. And it was funny because the college interns looked like they just didn't want to be there. They're just not interested. And fortunately, I got a 21-year-old college student, and she was kind of hot, and her dress was a low cut, and I like, peekaboo. And so that was nice. And the best thing was the fact that she was quiet. She did not say a word, and I'm not making it up. She literally did not say a word. When we were all done for the day, I told her that, you know, you talk too much. I mean, you really need to tone it down a bit. You know, she laughed, and the funniest thing was that with the election judge I was sitting with, I was nervous the whole time, and well, not the whole time. I mean, at the start, because you know, I tend to blow up if something irritates me, and I found a remedy for that. If I feel like I'm getting frustrated or nervous or something, I just respond with a phrase, I really like cheese. that calms me down and diffuses the anger, and so I said I really like cheese a few times. I think one time I said I have a fondness for Swiss. So, but train of thought boarding at the station. But yeah, but I mean, a lot of them. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, okay, but there was something that really struck me the wrong way. Now, you can kind of tell where in the state the petitions were handed out and were signed. I mean, obviously it says Cook County or in Chicago or one of the suburbs, but if you have one that says something like McLean County, Cook County, Kankakee, Tazewell, Grundy, Will, it's most likely a college town. And this one definitely seemed like it. And there was only one signature on that page that was legitimate. And like people know, I am no conspiracy theorist, but I almost had this thing in the back of my head, thinking that I'm wondering if the campus Republicans went out there telling people to give false information on the petitions. Now, I don't doubt that some of them, college students, what do they like to do? Of course, screw around. I don't doubt there was some of that going around, but I don't know. It's just something at the back of my head, and it's definitely something I would not put past either of the major political parties. They've been caught doing worse stuff,
Yeah, and one thing that is really well established, if you really look for it, the truth is that the two major parties are scared to death of the Libertarian Party. If they weren't, then they wouldn't fight tooth and nail to keep us down, to keep us off the ballot. So, Gary Johnson, he had at least had a sense of humor about it. They ended up kicking him off the ballot in Michigan, Oklahoma, and one other state, Virginia, maybe. I don't remember. There were 3 states in which he didn't end up on the ballot. He had been on, and then they kicked him off. I think Iowa was the other state, but anyway, he said he was flattered that the Republicans, tried to keep him down like that, and of course it's one of those things that I didn't think that Romney or Obama was that either of them was significantly better than the other, but if the there was a little bit of poetic justice in that, and the Republicans lost after basically telling the Libertarian wing of the party to go to hell, and then having the audacity to beg us not to vote for Gary Johnson.
I think I mentioned it a bit before the start of the show. I don't know if maybe I mentioned it afterward, but the Democrats successfully got the Green Party off the ballot by about 50, 60 votes. And I don't think the Republicans challenged the Constitution Party yet, but I have a feeling they're going to go off the ballot because, well, let's just put it this way. I mean, we also have to hire paid petitioners, and this is one thing that pissed me off. And what happened is that on the pages that were from Cook County, I was looking at the pages, and I'm like, there's some that almost every damn thing was challenged. And I lost like 90% of the challenges on those pages. I always dreaded seeing a Cook County one. And I turned it into our state, campaign director or something like that, promotions director, something like that. And what happened was, I told him, I can't win anything in Cook County. And he looked at the petitions, and he looked at the name of the petitioner, and he's like, yep, just as I thought. And as in the past, with some of the paid petitioners, they just don't care. They're just getting a paycheck, and they're not verifying anything, verifying an address or whatever. And, that's taken up a lot of our time. And those were definitely legitimate challenges. But there was a lot of stuff in there that was really, really petty. There was one, and I lost this challenge, but I put a note on my sheet that if it comes down to us losing by so many signatures, to challenge this one big time, is this one house. The person wrote down his address and his signature. The signature checked out. Most of the address checked out. The problem was that he had something like, I don't remember the exact number, but he wrote something down like 4201, but he was registered at 4301 on the same street, and they were both, I believe, it was like South State Street or South Michigan Avenue or something. So the house would be right next to where he was registered, and they didn't give that one to me. I mean, he would obviously be in the same district and everything, but that was the one they didn't give me that pissed me off the most, because, I mean, it's just statistically insignificant, and that really pissed me off. But the one that pissed me off the most, and I did challenge this one, and when this one came up, actually, the chick that was sitting with me, she had to leave for an hour, and they had someone else sitting in, and this guy, he didn't talk much either, but he was challenging the outcome of this one. There were 3 people in the row on this one petition, or on this one signature, and it was obviously a mother, father, and a child, or not a child, but one of their kids or something. And the first one signed the name, you know, printed the name and put the address down. The next two signed their name, printed their name, and put ditto marks.
Uh-huh.
And they were obviously all lived in the same house. And we looked up in the voter records, and they all lived in the same house. And the Republican guy was like, wait a minute, you know, no, what do those mean? And the guy, the judge at the computer was like, those are ditto marks. and at one point during the whole proceedings, the judge guy at the computer is like, this whole thing is a waste of time.
Yeah.
Even the people working for the state that were going through the signatures were like, this is a whole freaking waste of time. And the whole thing is bullshit. And the saddest thing about the whole procedure is that the state of Illinois does not have the worst ballot access laws. That goes to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And I think it is above us as well. I'd have to look into that. But anyway,
North Carolina had a really bad reputation for a while. I don't know if they still do, but
I really don't know. We should get Mike Maddox and Jamie Crane, who used to host Wheels Off Liberty on the show sometime, and ask them about that. I don't know if they really know or not. They might be anarchists. They're funny guys, though. But anyway, so there's my rantings and ramblings. Anyone want to add something real quick to that before we move on?
well, I think that you know, I wish first of all that you all had a system more like we do in Indiana. Indiana for a while we had I think we were like the sixth hardest when I first became involved with the party about 20 years ago. We had, I think, the sixth hardest, and then they changed the law where now it's a really odd way to do it, but it's also very doable. You have to get 2% of the vote in the Secretary of State race, which is every 4 years. In fact, they've got the next one is this year. So the LP has done it for the last 5 times, and if you do that, if you get just the 2%, and last time I think we got 6% or so. But if you just get 2%, you're automatically on the ballot for all offices for the next 4 years, and that makes a world of difference because we can actually use our resources here on outreach rather than just getting on the ballot. And like I mentioned on the show before, the last 2 U.S. Senate races in 2010 with Rebecca St. Burris and 2012 with Andrew Horning, we got 5.3 and 5.8% of the vote. So we do have a big following here. Now we need to increase it by a wide margin, but certainly, compared to other states, we're doing very well. And so ballot access does make a big difference.
Yeah, in Illinois we have the same thing with the Secretary of State position. I believe you said Indiana needs 2%.
Yeah.
Illinois needs 5%, and that's almost impossible to reach with the way that our resources are diverted. And
it's any statewide race.
What's that?
And it's any statewide race. If you get 5% for any of the statewide races, you're automatically on for anything under that.
I thought it was just a Secretary of State.
No, for any of those. So if the governor's candidate did, that would count as well.
Yeah. The whole governor's thing is another story altogether. There's not. I'm not going to say anything about it. Let's just leave it at that. Okay. So that having been said, it's time to get on with the show. Okay. So one thing I love about Google Hangouts, and I've said it before, I'm a broken record, and blah 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 blah, is that they got all these neat little toys and stuff you can play with, and oh, by the way, the Q&A app is open, so if anybody's listening and they got questions and they like me talking like this, you can always ask a question and tell me to stop it. And, hey, just have some fun. But I love this thing here, so welcome to our special guests, Mike Bowler and Cephus, or Cephus and Mike Bowler. Howdy, guys.
Howdy.
So, okay. I got to tell everybody about how I found... well, actually, why don't you guys talk about Bitchspot Report first before I go on?
Okay, well, Mike, you want to go, or should I?
Go for it. It's your.
Go for it. It's fine.
Yeah.
I started this thing about a year and a half ago, back when I realized that just about every single atheist podcast out there was coming from a serious liberal perspective, shall we say?
Me and Eric are atheists. Lec is a Christian. So.
And about as libertarian as you can get. So that whole liberal thing, that drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we libertarians, we're the only party that's truly a big tent, you know.
Well, we could go there in a moment, but I want to finish up Cephus ever since I rudely interrupted you, as I am wont to do.
All right. Well, anyway, I thought, hey, we ought to get out there, and I had my first guest or my first co-host, and we kind of sat down and said, hey, we should start something, and we did. And we ran together for about 10, 12 episodes, and then he left, and I found Mike, and we've been kind of going at it ever since. And we just put up episode 72 on yesterday.
I have yet to listen to it because I was down in Springfield and I couldn't listen. But the way I found the show actually is, as people who know me, one of my big things are conspiracy theories, and I like listening to and looking at like the responses to it and weighing the evidence and that, and so I was looking for a good skeptical conspiracy theory podcast, from the and I came across I can't remember the show. Mike, you remember it was you were a guest on the show earlier. You were talking about the Black Sox scandal. The conspiracy.
The conspiracy skeptic, Carl Maimer.
Yeah, you were a guest on that, and the first episode I listened to, you were, like I said, talking about the Black Sox scandal, and then you mentioned something. You mentioned that there was a bar down in Gardner, Illinois called the Gardner House, which is where I live, and you were talking about how they have all these like hundreds of different beers and stuff, and like, holy crap, this is a local guy. And then you were mentioning the Bitchspot Report and the atheist conservative show, and I am a more recently outed atheist. I decided like late last year that the whole thing just didn't make sense, but I try not to be pushy about it. I live and let live as long as people aren't hurting me. This is why I haven't murdered Lec in his sleep yet. So, but it doesn't help that he lives down in Indianapolis. So, but and so then I started listening, and then there was one episode you said something about libertarians, Cephus. I don't remember what it was, but then again I don't remember waking up this morning. And
makes two of us.
Yeah. Only reason I know I did is because I'm here. But and so I wrote into you and I mentioned something about it, and then you had me on the show like a few weeks later, and you called me your hero, and I'm like thinking, not even my kids call me that. But that was a good time, and I mean we have more in common because I like the approach you take on your show. You're conservatives, but you're not necessarily Republicans. And you're aware, and you guys, unlike a lot of people, are aware of the fact that the term Democrat and Republican are totally meaningless.
Well, essentially, but you got to remember that most Republicans aren't conservatives anyway. Neocons and conservatives are two entirely different things. Neocons are actually closer to liberals than they are to conservatives.
Here in Illinois, I don't know, 10, 12 years back, we had a governor's election, and the Republican was George Ryan, and the Democrat was downstater Glenn Prashard. And the Republican was pro-choice, pro-death penalty, or no, I'm sorry, the Republican was pro-choice, anti-death penalty, and pro-gun control, and the Democrat was pro-life, and pro-death penalty, and anti-gun control. Wait, I said the first guy was anti. The first guy was pro-gun control. The Democrat was anti-gun control. The Democrat was more conservative than the Republican.
Yeah, you see oddities like that sometimes, yeah.
It's a totally pointless system. All it is like name recognition. It's like you're driving down the highway and you see, oh, I mean, here's McDonald's, and you think you know what you can get there, and you go in there, and then it's like you get surprised by, you know, the different things on the menu in different parts of the country.
Yeah, the black Republican. What, really? Since when? And it's just silly that happens.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny that there's actually a rock group here in Indianapolis, and I'm not making this up. There's a rock group here in Indianapolis whose name is Gay Black Republican.
There was a picture floating around on the internet years back, and I don't know if it was real or if well, it might have been a real picture, obviously not a real group, but it was gay, black, Jewish Klansmen for tolerance and understanding, and they're dressed in pink KKK robes with rainbow sashes on, and it was just freaking brilliant. I got to dig that up again. That was freaking awesome. Somebody years later added a line to it, something about a SpongeBob fan club. But I saw this picture long before SpongeBob was out. But oh god, that was freaking awesome. I love that sort of thing. So we've already talked to you a couple episodes ago, Mike. So screw you, Cephus.
No problem.
Love. I say that in love, Mike. Oh, I already told you, screw you. Cephus, why don't you tell us a little bit more, I mean, about yourself, your journey, your conservatism, that sort of thing.
Well, I mean, me and I think Mike as well, but I'm not going to speak for him, and like you said, screw him. You know, we're more along the lines of Goldwater conservatives, you know, the old school, you know, 60s, 70s, before the religion, you know, before the dark times, before the empire kind of thing in the Republican Party. You know, people who are, you know, pro-small government, pro-responsibility, you know, all the rest of that, which is just not what the Republican Party is today. They are, like I said, they're pretty much liberals in clerical collars, and that's about it.
You know, I don't like calling them liberals, because liberal actually historically means, like, freedom or free or something like that, because liberal means, you know, wide, you know, throwing the net out there, and historically it means freedom. And the current crop of liberals or progressives, that's another oxymoron,
right,
aren't. You know, they aren't for freedom. They don't.
Yeah,
want...
but that's the common usage for today. So I'll just go ahead and let them use that.
It is. And you got to roll with the language, but you also got to make sure people realize that, you know, that's not how it originally was. And in fact, a lot of libertarians going around calling themselves classical liberals. And I believe that the term was coined by Friedrich Hayek in The Road to Serfdom, which, if you've never read it, awesome book. They do have a comic book version of it that was actually that GM actually printed and put in the glove compartments of every auto they sold back in the 50s or 60s, and Reader's Digest in the 50s printed a condensed version of it. So there's so many different, you know, ways to read that. And funny enough, I started reading that book because I used to be a conservative, a Republican, and big into all that stuff, and I was a huge Rush Limbaugh fan back in the day, and he suggested a few books, and one of them was something called Radical Son, which is a biography of David Horowitz, which was really a good read. And then he suggested The Road to Serfdom, and I credit Rush Limbaugh with turning me into a libertarian. So, kind of in a roundabout way.
Yeah, well, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people get really screwed up with labels, and I've kind of gone off on labels before where, you know, a label is just something you stamp on your forehead, and it means a different thing to absolutely everybody. You know, you talk to 10 people who say, I'm a liberal, and they all have different beliefs. You talk to 10 people who say, I'm a conservative, and they all have different beliefs, and the same thing with libertarian and everything else. So you can't really go with just, this is the label that I choose to assign to myself. You got to ask a lot of questions, and a lot of people don't like to ask questions.
And, you know, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think that one of the most destructive, you know, two of the most destructive labels that people have in America right now are Democrat and Republican, because you see people on both sides of the fence who are just absolutely, you know, blindly loyal to that party label. I mean, you saw that all the time, you know, with, you know, all the bashing by liberals of Bush over, the war over corporate bailouts, over his terrible stance on civil liberties, and then Obama gets in office, he does the same thing, and it's like he's absolved from his sins by being a Democrat. It's so that you have the people who are bashing Bush who are just excusing or even supporting Obama, for the same atrocities.
Okay, yesterday, as people know, Weird Al's been releasing a new music video every day this week, and as I was telling Mike, had already seen the one called Foil, which dealt with, the first part was about how you use foil to wrap sandwiches, and the second part was how you can use it to make a hat to protect yourself from the Illuminati, and of course, that's something different. But Al released a video yesterday called Sports Song, and it's like one of these school band things on the gridiron, and basically the song says our team is great and your team sucks, and that's exactly what it is. I mean, I'm a Chicago Cubs fan, okay, and if they play crappy, I'm still a fan, despite the fact they might not be the greatest team in the world, but it's my loyalty, and people are just knee-jerk loyalists to their people are knee-jerk loyalists to everything, Some people, J.K. Rowling put out a bad book, but look at everything else she's done, and it's just human nature. You were gonna say something, Eric?
Oh, I was just. Yes, I'm the same thing, but you explained it also, guy. Oh, I was going to say, I like using those labels, though, as insults. Like someone cuts you off in traffic. Democrat, I just love doing that. To me, it's just funnier.
My wife and kids are not in the car. If I'm driving around and windows are open and I pass somebody with an Obama bumper sticker, I'll yell at them, "You're the reason my health insurance went up $100 a paycheck."
Yeah.
So, it doesn't do anything, obviously, but hey, there you go.
It feels good.
It feels good. It's cathartic. Okay. So, so Mike, and the few times we've talked, you've actually been taking an interest in the whole signature thing that libertarians are doing here in Illinois, and obviously you're from Illinois, but I've just been curious, why did you take such an interest in that?
Well, it's it comes down to fairness. I mean, I think everyone, what I think is important for our political future is to be able to get people on the ballot, give us choices to vote for. And Illinois is clearly blocking any chance for the third parties or independents to get on the ballot. And that's
a side note. The Libertarian Party did file a lawsuit a few years ago against the state board of elections for the policies, and the stupid thing is that we asked the Green Party and the Constitution Party to join us, and they refused. So I don't know why, because this helps them too. But anyway.
I know Ralph Nader has helped has joined with the LP in these kinds of drives in the past. So yeah, it's a shame that more of the other third party people aren't open to it.
Party people over here, party people over there. All right.
Yeah. Well, I thought didn't the Greens got their own suit? I thought actually,
I have to look that up.
Because I've been
actually not ring the bell now that you mention it.
Yeah, see, the biggest thing that's bothering me is when I went to look it up. I mean, after the show last week, I started trying to find articles, something in the newspapers, anything about this challenge, and I only found one really decent article, and it was a Springfield PBS station, and I'm like,
I saw one in the St. Louis Review-Journal. I have to double check that, but they seem to actually do better reporting on stuff in Illinois than the Illinois papers do.
Yeah, because that's the only thing I found that even related to what was going on this week or this past week, and I'm like,
so the media silence is deafening, and I was thinking that too.
Yeah, well, look, it's all about ratings and excitement, and so if that story, if it bleeds, it leads, and that doesn't resonate with them. It's not something that they're interested in covering. It's not even a conspiracy. It just doesn't equate to money and viewership, so they don't care.
Right.
As I posted my Facebook page yesterday, that any conspiracy theorists out there, they obviously all have these things about government and all that. Fine. I mean, it's healthy to distrust the government to a certain degree, but the problem is that in my post I said that if every conservative or not conservative, every conspiracy theorist who was interested in liberty would stop with their bullshit conspiracies and actually work on the real conspiracies, like the conspiracy with the signatures down in Springfield, and the real conspiracy about keeping third parties off the ballot. I mean, how much better of a world would this be?
Exactly. I mean,
and I also, another thing, I know that I've said this on the show before, but I'll say it again for those who didn't listen to those past episodes. But one of the most counterproductive aspects of the conspiracy theorizing is that it takes attention away from things that we know are true. I mean, okay, let's just... I know Jim and I have debunked some of the ridiculous conspiracy theories, but even if there's some truth to some of them, I say, let's don't focus on what we don't know, let's focus on what we do know. I mean, even if the government actually did 9/11, which I don't think they did, we know that we've been engaged in this interventionist foreign policy that's made us enemies all over the world for decades. That's a fact. And we need to get rid of that. Either way.
Yeah.
Definitely.
The government has anything to do with the attacks or not, and just on and on. I think that it's just like or a couple of weeks ago we were talking about how the government likes it when people focus on comparatively minor issues such as same-sex marriage, because it's a distraction from the state of perpetual war and the civil liberties violations.
Mm-hmm. And so what were you going to say, Mike?
Well, I was just going to say, and why I'm being more vocal, doing my podcast is, it comes down to what's the harm. I mean, when we do on the Bitchspot, we focus a lot on the really bad stuff that comes out of politics and religion. I mean, and that's kind of my goal with what's the harm, and what's the harm of keeping people off the ballot? Well, it really undermines our political system. I mean, even though we're supposed to be a two-party country, if you're taking away the chance of someone making a decision, that is totally opposite of what we really stand for. And I mean, when I talked about it I do this Irreverent Skeptics that I'll be doing about noon Central Time. When I talked about it last week, we got a guy from Finland, and he goes, "That's screwed up."
Thanks for mentioning that on our petition thing on the Irreverent Skeptics last week, and it was nice to hear some support from everybody there. And I found that the easiest way to get people to sign the petitions is to explain the hoops that we have to jump through. And oh, by the way, I gave you a wrong number. I originally heard we had gotten 49,000 signatures. We got 44,000, but that's still pretty good. And it looks like at this point looks like we're going to win the challenge, because we only need like 27% to win 27% of the challenges, and when we left yesterday, we were about 46%. So it's looking good, as long as we don't get any more petitions from Cook County. So, all right. With that having been said, as I mentioned, I was on Bitchspot Report, about a month and a half ago now. And we were talking, about libertarianism versus conservatism. I'd kind of like to continue that discussion here. Now, once again, I don't remember anything. Don't remember when we stopped, what we talked about. As I like to say, my mind is like a steel trap. What goes in comes out all mangled. So, that having been said, there are many areas that we agree in. As I said, you guys are not typical conservatives, because you don't toe a party line and you're willing to call out Barbara Streisand, BS when when it's there. That's one of the few things I really love Rush Limbaugh for, was using the term BS referring to Barbara Streisand. So hey, same difference. What's the difference? Barbara Streisand, exactly. Same thing. So anyway, and I think some of the areas where we would disagree would be like illegals, border area, military intervention. So We obviously agree on economics. We're all small government. We're not like the Republicans who, say they're for small government, but then do this, that, and the other, and totally betray the people that voted for them. And so Cephus. Oh, by the way, Cephus, where does that come from? It sounds familiar, and I don't recall it off the top of my head.
Actually, it doesn't really mean anything. It's just a name I've been using for long years. So.
Gotcha. Oh, okay. On other forums, I'm sometimes known as Inky or Inky Atari, and I think you can probably guess where that all came from.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious.
Yeah, that's obvious. Actually, not quite, because actually way back in the day during the BBS craze, back when everybody had their computer and their modem and that, I was actually known as Incoherency, but it was just kept getting too long to type, and so I shortened it to Inky, and then I joined an Atari forum because in fact, I got to hook my Atari up today. I haven't done that in about a year, and one thing leads to another. So
yeah, you get us old people who've been around for a long time, and I've been doing this since the 70s. We're 300 baud modems and all that stuff, acoustic couplers. Oh, and back in the old day, nobody used their real name online. Nobody. And I've kind of just stuck with that my entire online career. It's like, I've been doing it for 30 years. Screw it, I'm going to keep doing it.
And something interesting, and I didn't realize this because it didn't affect me, but Google on Google Plus had this policy where you can only use your real name. I think they only went after like more famous, more vocal people. So since I'm just a small fly being eaten by a small frog in a small pond, that they didn't bother with me. But as of last week, it looks like Google Plus actually dropped their real name only policy. So just throwing that out there. But all right, back to where, man, if it wasn't for sidetracks, this show would probably be about 5 minutes long. Anyway, so talk to me. I mean, what kind of areas do you think the conservatives and the libertarians might disagree?
Well, I mean, I don't think, at least me, I can only speak for myself, but, when it comes to military intervention, I am not one of these guys who supports the U.S. running around the world swinging their dick and pissing off everybody else because we want to make money.
In America should be the world police?
No, that's not our job. If you want us to be your policeman, that's absolutely cool. Pay us. If you want us to come fight your wars for you, I have no problem being a mercenary. You fund us, though. You pay every damn penny it costs us.
Here's your check. Don't forget to 15% for a tip, and come again.
I'd be cool with that because people would stop asking us to do it.
Yeah, no kidding. But okay, so that's cool. And Mike, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I'm in agreement. I mean, we've been playing this police force.
Pardon me?
Sorry, Lec? Oh, he's talking.
He's okay. No, we've been used as the world's police force. We've only focused on like the Middle East. I mean, there's stuff that's going on in Nigeria with that Boko Haram group. If there was oil at risk, we'd have I think we said it. There would be the Sixth Fleet would be parked off of off the coast of Africa, and we'd be bombing day and night to deal with it.
Nigeria has a lot of oil, and I think the situation there is more volatile than actually the Middle East, if you can believe that.
Right.
That whole thing.
But the humanitarian stuff.
I did get an email, and apparently I'm related to somebody in Nigeria, and I'm going to be coming into a lot of money here. So,
cool.
You guys are all gone. So
yeah,
out there.
Yeah, I think we're all related to Nigerian princes at some point.
Wow, they all got killed on the Sagbama Freeway. Wow,
yeah.
That's just amazing how that happens. So, okay, I mean, we're on the same page on that. I mean, I would think it would go a little bit further, and you actually might agree on this, is that a lot of the problems that we're doing are basically we're mopping up from our big screw-ups from the past.
Well, we actually did a show a couple of weeks ago where we went through and we did America's horrible international war effort, where we actually went through and we detailed every single war that we've gone in and we've deposed governments since 1954, or actually 1949 with Syria. And the list just went on and on and on and on, where we'd go in and we'd depose democratically elected governments, and then we put in our own dictators, right up until they did stuff we didn't like. Then we had to go in to depose them and put in another dictator. We are so screwed up.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, it's for our national interest, but, they're not doing anything, and what they say, you can catch more flies with honey than you can with vinegar, and it just seems like we like to have these spray bottles of vinegars, and we're shooting it all around the world. I think some of it's dispersing the chemtrails, but for the most part, we're pissing people off with it. But okay, so we're really on the same page on that. That's a very libertarian issue. The libertarian philosophy stems from what's called the non-aggression principle, which basically says you don't have the right to initiate violence or fraud or force against anyone to get your way, but if someone fucks, or my mother-in-law's home, so if somebody messes with you, then you have every right to use the appropriate amount of force to defend yourself and get your stuff back or whatever. And I'm not dogmatic about it, but it works in like 90% of the issues to the way I see it.
Well, I didn't go down that road. That's not the way I think necessarily it ought to work. But there's a difference between just saying, hey, we're a democracy and we're going to plant democracies all over the planet, whether anybody likes it or not, because we're pissed off at communists, and saying we have a legitimate interest in this area beyond we want cheap oil.
Yeah.
Where, there's reasons to go out there and have wars and to go ahead and get involved in other people's countries. We have unfortunately done it for the wrong reason, because we just think USA, we're number one and we're better than everybody else, and we get to dictate how everybody else on the planet acts, and that's just not the way it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as I said, I think a lot of the wars, and I'm probably Lec and Eric probably agree with it, is that a lot of it is just stuff that we messed up in the past, and you basically agreed with it, and and a lot of it's just mop-up operations that we shouldn't have been involved in the first place. And right now, I can't think of a single legitimate place that we should be intervening. Possible exception is that situation in Nigeria, but once again, that doesn't really affect the United States. But it's obviously the country could use some help on that, and I have no problem going over there helping them if A, they ask for it, and B, we get some sort of reimbursement or something.
Yeah, but the fact is that we would never do that, because all that means is we're going to piss off the Muslims again, like we've done all along. Mm-hmm. I was just pointing out that most of the big Muslim terrorist organizations out there, we've caused pretty much. Whether you're talking about Boko Haram, or you're talking about ISIS, or you're talking about Al-Qaeda, or you're talking about the Taliban, these are all things that the U.S. has been very much involved with, propping them up, creating them, and then we get really confused when they come back and kick us in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
We're not that bright, sorry.
Well, the people that are in office are elected by popular vote for the most part, so there you go.
And then on top of that, there's this, ridiculous and also extremely dangerous conditioning that's taken place, in which people think that everything that our military does involves, protecting our freedom.
Yeah, they use that as the buzzword to rally the troops. Freedom, freedom, and the word means nothing anymore.
Well, no, but then again, they're sitting around going, yeah, but they hate us for our freedom. No, they hate us because we're dicks. Mm-hmm. That's why they hate us. They hate us because we keep sticking our nose in their business where it doesn't belong.
once again, going back to conspiracy theories, they're always like, you guys buy the government official government story on September 11th, and I'm like, the official government story is that they hated us for our freedom, and I don't believe that. I believe they hate us because we pissed them off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, and it's the government likes for all this disinformation, and you see, to me, that's one of the danger of conspiracy theories, that people, when they focus on nonsense like that, they don't realize what the government has been doing around the world, or even if we do, a lot of people thinks it must be justified that, there's this brainwashing that's taken place so that people think that every conflict that we're involved in, it involves our freedom, and that if you don't, support the troops as they call it, then you're some kind of anti-American communist. And a friend of mine put it that basically these people who think they're supporting the troops, what they're really just doing is cheering them on while they destroy their lives and the lives of others. It's tragic.
Have anything to add to that, Eric or Mike?
I got nothing.
No, I don't.
All right. So, turning it over to Mike now. What other potential what kind of potential areas? Actually, I'm going to throw this out to both Mike and Cephus. What potential areas of disagreement do you have with libertarians?
Well, like you said before, the whole illegal alien border thing, and it depends really on how you define libertarian. And we've talked about this before, because there's a lot of different people who define it in a lot of different ways, and this kind of goes back to the label thing, where you've got everybody from people I would consider to be pretty rational libertarians. After the religious took over the Republican Party, a lot of people who were conservative Republicans said, screw this, and went to the Libertarian Party. So there's a lot of actual conservatives in the Libertarian Party.
Yeah. And I think I think what we should do for the sake of this conversation is, when we say libertarian, I think me, Lec, and Eric are in agreement on this, that we're all minarchists. We're not the anarchy type, because it just doesn't make sense to me, but it doesn't make sense to be where we're at as far as the way the government is. To put it in a simple way, it's more nuanced than this, but court, cops, and roads.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I have those same issues with libertarians myself. You have the right wing, the Libertarians for Life. They're all about the Bible. We want to rewrite the Constitution for our purposes. I'm like, join the Constitution Party then. You've got the libertarians that are absolutely convinced of all the conspiracy stuff. The government is out to get us in black helicopters and chemtrail. They're into it. You've got the complete total anarchist with anarchy everywhere. You have such a range of people that call themselves libertarian, and I struggle with that. I try to consider myself a very common sense, middle of the road libertarian. Yes, there are things that government probably can and should do for us. It's a small list. Mm-hmm. It's not, it's not nothing. You need a center of government for certain things. So I struggle with that. That libertarians can be so different, and I understand. I just want to get high, man. I get that. So I understand when people have complaints about libertarianism.
And I say, when I talk about, since you made the thing about getting high, what I say to people, when they present us with that, I say, we in the Libertarian Party, we do believe that once you turn 18, you have the right to consume any substance you want to without any government regulation, including taxation. But we also believe, and this is where we stand apart from liberals, we believe that if you harm yourself in the course of consuming any substance, that you alone are responsible, not the people who made it, not the people who sold it to you, and that the government does not owe you for any health care that you need as a result. Mm-hmm. It's freedom combined with responsibility.
Yeah, but nobody wants to talk about responsibility. That's the problem.
Yeah, and again, of course, that's we libertarians do, but unfortunately, a lot of other people don't.
Yeah, but see, I've seen people who are self-identified libertarians who say the same thing, but they expect, well, hey, if I get screwed up because I shot myself up with heroin, it's the government's job to come and put me in the hospital and take care of me until I'm well, so I can go do it again, and then they can do it again.
Hey, and like Sam turned into Aunt Samantha. So anyway, but
I always try to emphasize the two equally. Freedom and responsibility.
As do I. I think that's something that you need to focus on.
Good.
And sometimes responsibility is a problem because some people might have mental health issues and that, and I'm totally fine with resources going to help, people that definitely need it. But the problem there comes is when you have the government dealing with mental health issues. They're the ones who gets to determine who's insane, and they get into all of these problems and that. But as far as it goes, I don't mind. That's one thing I don't think I would mind is welfare for those who truly, absolutely need it.
Short term, as long as it's short term and they are required to act to get off welfare, I'm cool with that. But the people who are just sitting on their ass watching Oprah and holding their hand out for a government check, absolutely not. Those people don't deserve a goddamn thing.
Well, two things on that. Sometimes there are people that have these lifelong conditions that they just can't do anything about, and I don't have a problem with that. But a second thing, as to what you mentioned, there was it must have been like 15 years ago, there was a report from Chicago where the Chicago Housing Authority was going to start making the residents of their projects, specifically Cabrini Green, which I don't think is there anymore, and they were going to make them start mowing the grass and keeping the place up, doing repairs and stuff in exchange for living there. And the news interviewed this one resident, and she was like, well, if they're going to do that, I might as well go out and get a job.
Yeah?
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love that.
And I'm not making that up. I saw that with my own two eyes.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that. I think that goes back to like the first year that we were on the air when you
I think so. I think so, about 4 years ago. But yeah. But, I mean, that's big players.
I never get tired of hearing.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, if you're going to be on welfare, and let's assume that you're not disabled for the rest of your life, that you're just on there for whatever reason, I think you need to go out there and you need to spend 8 hours a day working. And I don't care if that's picking up trash on the side of the road. You need to be out there developing a work ethic. Number two, you need to be getting an education. You need to be required to get out there, get your GED if you don't have it, get into a 2-year college, get some kind of a degree and some kind of job training so that you can get off of welfare. And number three, you can't frickin' breed anymore. No more kids. You are not a baby factory. You need to knock it off, be responsible. That's that word again. And, do something better for your life instead of just, hey, I'm going to keep having kids so they keep sending me more checks.
And to me, that's one of the tragedies about the welfare state is that the way it has absolutely destroyed the black family. Blacks had a higher marriage rate and a lower illegitimacy rate than did whites, and consistently throughout the first half of the 20th century. And you look at the problems in the black community today. It's not because of racism. It's because of course racism still exists, but the primary problems that blacks face aren't racism, but rather it's that their families have been decimated by the welfare state, and that the war on drugs have turned their neighborhoods into war zones, and the public education system has just destroyed their educational opportunities.
Yeah, and the war on drugs sent all the fathers to prison.
Yeah.
And that's true, but you got to remember that the reason that they are the way that they are and why they have such a low marriage rate anymore is because in the 60s and 70s, the welfare rules said that if the father was living in the home, that they couldn't get a check.
Oh, yeah.
And so, the fathers would be running out the back door as soon as the welfare workers showed up at the front door.
Yeah, so it's just, and what's really tragic, if you go back to the first years after slavery, what was abolished, there are all kinds of stories about blacks who would, of course this is obviously before we had the internet, heck, it's before we had the automobile, and yet they would put up posters and try to find relatives who had been sold down the river And so like Walter Williams said, welfare has done what slavery and the Jim Crow laws couldn't do, which was break up the black family.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the blacks also need to take responsibility.
Oh, absolutely.
That hasn't been the case for many, many, many years, but they've developed this ghetto subculture, for lack of a better word, where they're doing a lot of things that are self-destructive, and they have the ability to change it. And we got people out there like Jesse Jackson, and we got people out there like Al Sharpton who are pushing this because they make a ton of money off keeping them poor and stupid and Democrats.
I got in trouble at work for calling Jesse Jackson Jesse Jackass.
Yeah.
Interestingly, the person that made the accusation got fired the same day for something totally different, sleeping on the job. Go figure. But at any rate, the one thing I think that I think gets lost on all this conversation about welfare is it's easy to talk about it as far as the black culture, the inner city culture, or whatever, because sadly that's what we see on the news all the time. As I've said, if the news was broadcast out of, say, Watseka, Illinois, you'd be hearing more, about the white trash or whatever. I mean, the fact all of the broadcasting is out of the out of the areas where there's a higher concentration of ethnicity. That is why we go the way we are. A lot of studies have shown that actually the white folk in Appalachia abuse the welfare system more than any other group. Now, I don't know how recent
well, that's the thing with statistics. You hear them on the news or something, but you never see the other half of it. Like they'll say, 40% of illicit drug use happens in the inner city. Well, that means 60% doesn't, and that's the part that they miss.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and the other day, I just
go on TV about as you said earlier, Eric. If it bleeds, it leads, and they'll have the stories about West Nile virus, and 2 people died from West Nile after getting stung by or bitten by mosquitoes, and yet how many thousands, hundreds of thousands of people got bitten by mosquitoes and didn't get West Nile virus? Now. And then, like, you know what? If 2 people died from West Nile virus, think about it. Those are good odds. I mean, I'll take my chances with the West Nile virus over, I don't know, jumping off a 100-foot building.
And people do that for fun.
Yeah, exactly. But I wanted to get back to something you had mentioned as an area where we'll probably disagree is the issue with illegal aliens. And Mike, you need to be quiet. You're talking way too much.
Okay, I'll work on that.
All right. So once again, talk to me. Talk to me. Let me know what you have to say on that.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, anybody who comes to this country and doesn't have respect for our most basic laws, we don't need them. We absolutely don't need them. I agree that the immigration system needs to be revamped. It's messed up. We need to fix it. We need to streamline it. That's cool. That's something nobody wants to talk about, though. Every time Obama shows up and goes, hey, we're just going to give amnesty. I'm sorry, we did that back in the 80s when 5 million people became illegal or became citizens, and we said never again. Here we are 25 years later, we're looking at 15 to 20 million people, and we're going never again. Well, yeah, I didn't take you seriously the first time. You're not serious about never again. There was a study done a couple of years ago in Mexico where they found that about 70% of the population said they would come to the U.S. illegally if they thought they could get away with it. 70% of Mexico. We cannot support that number of people. We just can't. It's just not possible unless we annex Mexico, but why would we want to?
Well, we technically did of a sort back in 1860, but that was 1860. The problem, though, is that the way that our economy is set up, we actually need the illegal immigrants here, and I would argue that the way to end the problem is twofold. One, legalize drugs, not just marijuana, but everything. The upshot will be is that you won't have any trafficking, And then you will be safer because the stuff will be more pure because it's made in, be made like in cleaner factories, and you could buy it at your local Walgreens instead of the alley behind the Walgreens. And then 2, get rid of the minimum wage.
Oh,
because minimum wage is cutting off so many jobs, and it's not allowing people, or it's not allowing business owners. And when you talk about the minimum wage, everyone's like, "Oh, but Walmart's paying their people X." Yeah, what about the guy downtown at the menswear shop who's making, horrible low profits, who can't afford the minimum wage? I mean, that discussion never happens. But if you get rid of the minimum wage, then those jobs that are only worth minimum wage don't become illegal, and then people don't have to come here illegally to get the illegal jobs.
Yeah, and the thing is, anybody who supports the minimum wage, and we don't have enough time left to really go and do a whole lot, in this episode on that subject. But in a nutshell, anyone who supports the minimum wage basically does not understand even simple economics. And I always say I'll believe the Democrats are the party of the poor when they support the abolition of the minimum wage, the end to corporate bailouts, and the abolition of the Federal Reserve. But yeah, basically, every measure that simple-minded, knee-jerk liberals think is going to benefit the poor, and stick it to the rich, all of them have the opposite effect. And the minimum wage being a classic example. I mean, nobody has ever stopped being rich. No employer has ever stopped being rich because of the minimum wage. But a lot of poor people, have lost their jobs over it.
They make a big deal about recently is the fast food job should be paying $15 an hour, and I'm like, you don't need $15 an hour to take somebody's order or flip a burger if you want to make that much money. Hey, get a job at the Everest. Hey, it's Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, and what people don't realize is that employers are only willing to pay you as much value as you bring. And the thing with what the minimum wage does, it discriminates against the lowest skilled workers. The people.
Let's put it this way. Let's put it this way. The McDonald's, one of the McDonald's near where I work, got rid of like 3 or 4 jobs, and they replaced it with one of those automatic order taking machines.
Right.
Yeah, and while it's true that these days most of the people who support the minimum wage, while they're dead wrong, they do have good intentions, but it should be noted that the intentions of the minimum wage, haven't always been good. You go back to when the minimum wage movement first started, one of the chief arguments for it, was to prevent low-skilled blacks who were just entering the workforce, to keep them unemployable, to keep white laborers from having to compete with those blacks, and that wasn't just the case here in America, but also if you go back, more recently to the apartheid era in South Africa. If you go back to like Walter Williams' book, South Africa's War Against Capitalism, he has a lot of quotes that back this up. One of the leading arguments for blacks in South Africa, the leading advocates of a minimum wage law in South Africa for blacks were racist labor unions who would never have a black as a member. And their stated reason, I'm not talking about ulterior motives, their stated reason was to keep, whites from having to compete with low-skilled black workers.
And like I said, the reason I brought up the minimum wage, though, is I think that would help with the illegal problem. But I want to get your take on this. I don't know if you listened to my episode a few weeks ago when I got back from our little trip out to Arizona.
Yeah, I did. I actually wrote a post on it. So
Oh, you did?
I don't think it's gone up yet, but yeah, you're not going to be happy with it. But okay.
So give me your take on that.
Well, what part specifically? Because you talked about a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah, about the way that the whole area has become like a DMZ.
Demilitarized zone. Well, I mean, I agree with you, but I honestly think that we're doing the wrong things pretty much across the board when it comes to immigration enforcement and all that kind of stuff. Like right now when we're doing, all these kids that are coming across, because they know that we're not going to send the kids back because they know that we only react emotionally, we don't react rationally. And let's be honest, there's a lot of drug traffickers and criminals in South or Central and South America who are actually renting kids from their parents to bring them up because they think that it makes them look better to have a kid with them when they come across the border.
Right.
Most of these kids are coming across with somebody that's not their family. They're trafficker help. I don't know how to call it. I honestly think that we need to make a lot of changes. I don't think that we should make these people legal. I don't think we should open the borders. Like I said, if our most basic laws are just going to be ignored by these people, if they don't care about our most basic laws, how could we actually think that they're going to come across the border and become citizens or become resident aliens and actually give shit one about any of the laws that we have?
Mm-hmm.
We see right now, these people are by and large not coming here to take low-wage jobs. They're coming here to get welfare because we give welfare to anybody. And they're coming here to drop their anchor babies. They're coming here to be criminals and be part of Mexican gangs, etc.
I think that's one area we not disagree, that we do agree on, is the fact that I don't think you just because the fact that you have a child born here that the child is automatically a citizen and you can stay. Now the whole system is screwed up, yeah, as you mentioned before, and that's one other area we agree. But I don't think the military tactics that they're using down along the border are working. And I've actually heard a report that we have similar checkpoints now along the Canadian border. In fact, I've read somewhere recently, and I'll have to double check it because I don't have the source in front of me, that we actually have one of these things in Toledo.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, some of that kind of stuff is ridiculous, and it's more a symptom of the way the system works than the system. I mean, if we actually fixed the way that we actually do business, meaning we send every single person back across that border that comes across, that we block everybody that we can, that we don't allow these people to work illegally. And right now, you're actually seeing in Mexico where they have issued between 70,000 and 100,000 migrant worker visas to people coming across their southern border. And the only reason they're doing this is to allow these people to pass through Mexico to come to America. They're pushing this stuff. South America is pushing this stuff. Ecuador is pushing this stuff. All these different countries, they're using the U.S. as a dumping ground for their poor and criminals, people they don't want to deal with.
Cuba. Remember Cuba?
Yeah. Same thing.
Yeah, he brought that up earlier. Yeah, that was the big thing during Reagan was, oh gosh, I can't see my camera, which might be a good thing. But yeah, that was the big thing during the Reagan era was the whole Cuban boat lift thing. And at least we got the movie Scarface out of that. So
Yeah.
I guess all that.
Yeah, but you have Mexico, and I don't know if they're still doing it, but there was a point in time when they were printing maps with directions and instructions for how to enter the U.S. illegally and handing them out in their lowest, their ghetto areas.
Did you see the new thing that they're doing in Mexico now? I saw a report on this, like, it might have been a year or two ago, and I don't remember the... I'm going to have to stop saying I don't remember the details. People should just assume that with me now. But there, some entrepreneurs down there have actually gotten kind of smart, and what they're doing now is that they're having these border crossing experience tours down there, and I don't know if they're really taking paying guests, across the border, or if it's like a mock-up thing, but people from the United States can go down there and pay them, X amount of dollars, and it's like one of these adventure vacation things.
Be an illegal alien, yeah.
Exactly, and some people think that sort of thing is fun, and it's an adventure and all that, and
Disney's illegal alien adventures.
Disney's Wild Immigrant Kingdom.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I talked about our experience down at Oregon Pipe Cactus, and I looked on their website for the National Monument down there, and their visitor center down there, their visitor center down there is named after a Ranger, Chris Eggle, who was killed back in '02, I want to think, after chasing a drug runner through the park. And I don't remember when they put up all of these militaristic checkpoints through there, but and then because of the way they're doing things down there, it's like 50% of that park is off limits. And the big problem these days, I guess they built this like huge, even better fence along the southern border to keep people from coming in, and they're actually in that area actually doing an okay job of keeping people from crossing the border. But the problem is that most of the park is a federal wilderness area where you're supposed to, it's like all you can do is like walk in, and if you have trash, get food or something, you take the trash out or whatever. And the Border Patrol, and quote unquote chasing people that were coming across the border, are riding their ATVs all over through the wilderness area and destroying the ecosystem. And it's really more of that these days than it is actual people. And in fact, I was reading a story about this one family that went on vacation down there. I think it was either last year or 2012, 2011. I can't remember, but I did it again. But what happened was that they got off. They parked their car and they in the park, and they went off the road they went for a little walk, and they were taking pictures or something, or stopped or something to look at some flowers or something. I don't remember the exact details. And a Border Patrol helicopter came over by them. Oh, and it was at night, by the way, and they were not too far off of the road. And they shined the light on them and everything, and they were hovering around them, and then they got back in their car. And not too much long afterwards, they got pulled over by the Border Patrol, and they were getting raked over the coals by them because they thought that they were like trafficking or something, and the whole thing down there just, to me, smacks of paranoia.
Oh, a lot of it is, but like I said, it's a symptom of the problem. It's not the problem itself.
Yeah.
If we did not allow them to come up here and get jobs and get welfare and get free health care and have their anchor babies and all the rest of this stuff, they wouldn't come. They're not coming for their health. Well, they might be, but that's only because we pay for it. If we didn't give them all the freebies, if we didn't give them everything that we give them, they wouldn't come, because it would be no better here. In fact, it would be worse than where they come from, because here we'd at least throw them in jail and then chuck their asses back across the border. There, at least they have a life and they can work legally, etc.
Yeah, but once again, it comes down to the fact that they're basically filling the jobs in this country that have been made illegal by the minimum wage, for the most part. I mean, I would say that.
But they don't have to be. If you're talking about things in agriculture, there was a study, and now I don't remember the details. It was a couple of years ago where they said that if we just paid people minimum wage, American citizens minimum wage, and whatever else you have to pay them to go out in the fields and pick the crops, it would raise the prices on things a few cents at most. It doesn't really cost that much to do it, but we have this tradition of hiring migrant workers to go out and do it. We don't have to. We could get rid of that completely tomorrow, hire Americans who are right now making minimum wage flipping burgers at McDonald's to go out there, and you wouldn't really see that much of an economic impact.
But they don't want it.
Well, of course not.
I don't want to pick radishes for minimum wage. You want this job? No.
Let's be honest here. It comes back down to the America attitude, where we're just above everything too. I mean, there is,
which I don't think is necessarily true. I think that's something that the liberals and the Democrats pull because they want to continue this, because they want to bring these people up here, make them citizens, and go, hey, look, we're importing our own future voters. That's what they're trying to do.
Historically, I'm not maybe necessarily recently, but historically, Hispanics have been actually huge Republican supporters, especially down in Miami. I mean, obviously things change, but
they tend to vote for the people who give them the most, and that at the moment is the Democrats.
Yeah, everybody.
Well, all right, yeah, that's true, because fiscal responsibility. What the hell is that?
Everybody votes for whoever's going to be given them. Well, I can't say everybody. Most people vote for whoever's going to promise them anything. The concept we use on the show, which I haven't used in a long time, is that of the magical goodies creator. Everybody sees the government as this big thing that can create goodies out of nothing, and then people, hey, they see that like, hey, I don't have to pay for that, and
Who wants a free cell phone?
Yeah.
I was reading about that. I heard that was actually started under Bush, but people blame Obama for it.
Yeah.
I think Obama's biggest sin is not that the programs that he started, or because I don't think he's really started much of the stuff that was original, is the fact that he actually continued the programs, and he really didn't do what he promised in his campaign. Hey, let's make healthcare more affordable. Yeah, mine went up 65% a check.
Yeah.
More per paycheck than I did last year. Well,
you got to remember, Obama said he was going to be completely transparent, and we all know that's a complete lie.
Oh God, I mean, you can't be. It's definitely a lie, but let's be completely honest. If every politician was completely transparent, we would be storming the White House with torches and pitchforks. Which
we probably should do.
Exactly. That's one big area we agree on. Let's start the torches and pitchforks club.
Yep. Hey, I'm all up for a revolution. We're about 200 years overdue.
Wait, you say you want a revolution?
Absolutely. It's the only way to fix things.
I got the joke.
Well, the problem is that we have, and this is a problem that we have to blame all Americans for, is that we have put the people in power. The only people who can change the system are the ones who benefit from keeping the system the way it is. And that's true of the legal system, that's true of the political system, which is largely the same thing. That's true of, like, religion, if you want to go talk about the Catholic Church. These people all benefit from keeping things exactly the way they are. And as long as they can lie to Americans and say, hey, we're doing our best for you, and we're gonna kind of wave our arms and distract you from the reality, nothing's ever going to change. Nothing's ever going to improve.
I hate to do this, but we actually only got about 1 minute.
All right, coming.
Radio Fubar right now. But to close that out, as I am fond of saying, I don't trust big government, big religion, big business, big labor, and big whatever. If you're big, you're the problem. So, there you go. Take that for whatever it's worth. At any rate, why don't Mike and I keep saying Cephus, but you pronounce it Cephus. Why don't you guys go ahead and plug away real quick?
Okay, well, you can watch for new episodes of our podcast every Friday. They go up 9 o'clock Pacific. Some of us actually live on the West Coast, as opposed to all of you. Anybody who would like to come on the show, I mean, that's really why we had you on. You said you had something to say. We have you on. And we welcome anybody who can rationally defend their views. Come on! It's sad how many people complain, and then you invite them on, and they just kind of go, no, I'm not going to do that. Sorry, not impressed.
And Mike, why don't you go ahead and plug all the stuff you're into?
Okay.
Not the stuff you're into.
Yeah, let's not go there.
Yeah, you don't want that. But other than the Bitchspot Report, I do a conspiracy podcast, A Skeptic's Guide to Conspiracy.
Great show,
Yeah, it comes out every 2 weeks, roughly. I'm kind of going into a new scheduling thing, so I try to get it out on Saturday. I'm actually, when I go home weekends is when I put it out, so I'm going to be like 2 weeks away from being home next time, so that's kind of that. And then there's the Irreverent Skeptics. It's a live at noon we do a Google Hangout, then we record it, and later we'll put it out as a podcast.
All right. And by the way, how far back are they on putting those podcasts off? Because the last new one was uploaded like a couple weeks ago, and it was like
I got to go, everybody, but I'll see you all next time. Take care. Thanks for joining us.
Take care,
all right.
All right, see you.
Oh, I forgot to ask him about his movie audition. Oh, well. So, anyway, so there we go. Once again, Morris, Illinois, Jim Goebel.
Hi, Eric's here in Lockport, Illinois.
And Lec from Indianapolis, he took off. And thanks once again to our guests, Mike and Cephus. Check out their show. It's actually, I actually agree with him more often than I disagree, and I think that's the feeling is mutual on that. So, anyway, talk to y'all later. Have fun. Blah blah blah. Don't kick your puppies. Bye bye.